Have you ever really stopped to think about where our ideas of beauty come from? I mean, who decided what it means to be beautiful in the modern world? Well, the story of how those ideals were invented, packaged, and then sold to all of us, it all starts with one pretty fascinating question.
So who actually did it? Who came up with this idea that beauty is something you can buy, a status you can achieve if you just have the right products? The answer, I can almost guarantee, is not who you think it is.
That's right. The architects of 20th century beauty weren't some boardroom full of men in gray flannel suits. Nope. They were a brilliant, ambitious, and, as we'll see, a really complicated team of women. And that contradiction is the incredible story we're gonna unpack.
Okay, so first things first. Let's meet the women at the heart of all this. Who were they, and how in the world did they manage to get into such a powerful position in the first place?
Well, the leader of the pack was a woman named Helen Lansdowne. People described her as incredibly forceful, super resourceful, and she did something unheard of. She carved out her own space inside one of the world's biggest ad agencies, an entire department run by women, for women, created specifically to advertise to women. I mean, this was absolutely revolutionary in the business world of the early 1900s.
And get this, look at who she hired. These weren't just any women. These were college grads from top schools, women who already had careers in journalism and social reform. And here's the kicker, many of them were key figures in the women's suffrage movement. We're talking about organizers for the National Women's Party, the circulation manager for the newspaper, the suffragist. So you have these progressive activists, pioneers of women's rights, who then pivot to selling beauty products. How on earth did they square that circle?
Well, they used a really clever survival strategy. They argued that women had a special, innate, feminine intuition. And this wasn't just some marketing fluff, it was their ticket in. They basically told their male bosses, listen, you guys will never understand how to sell things to women, but we can. We get them in a way you never will. It was a brilliant move, using an argument that could seem limiting to actually gain power and create a space for themselves.
So, they had their foot in the door, armed with this so-called feminine intuition. What did they do with it? Well, they completely changed the game. They created a revolutionary new way of advertising by trying to turn it into a science.
Working alongside the agency head, Stanley Resor, who, by the way, she would later marry, Lansdowne decided to make advertising respectable. They were sick of all the snake oil salesmen and their ridiculous claims. They wanted to professionalize the whole industry, bringing in real market research and consumer psychology. They were out to prove that advertising wasn't just guesswork, it could be a science.
And this shift was just radical. Before JWT, advertising was all reason why copy. It was super straightforward, this soap is made with olive oil and it will clean your face. It appealed to your logic. But JWT's new method, this psychological appeal, sold something totally different. It didn't just sell the product, it sold the feeling. It sold the pleasure, the social status, the life you wished you had. It appealed directly to your emotions, your anxieties, and your deepest desires.
And believe me, they had a whole process to back it up. This wasn't just some creative brainstorming session. They did massive consumer investigations, mailing out thousands of questionnaires. They surveyed drugstores and retailers to see what was actually selling. They analyzed the product, sure, but the crucial step was analyzing the buying motives. Why would someone really choose one soap over another? Only after all that research did they craft the perfect copy and artwork to hit you right in the feels.
And now we get to the campaign that changed everything. The one that proved their science of desire wasn't just a theory, it was a commercial juggernaut. And it was all for a simple bar of soap, Woodbury's facial soap.
Just listen to these 6 words. They would redefine beauty advertising for the next 100 years. A skin you love to touch. This wasn't about being clean anymore. This was about being desirable. It was an absolute masterpiece of psychological advertising, and Lansdowne's team copyrighted it way back in 1914.
So, why was this slogan so incredibly powerful? Well, it's a perfect example of what experts later started calling the male gaze. It forces the woman reading the ad to imagine someone else reading it too, a man who will want to touch her skin. The ad wasn't really selling soap at all. It was selling the promise of male attention. It tapped directly into a woman's desire to be desired.
And boy, did it work. Before JWT came along, the Woodbury's ad budget was a measly $25,000. After just 1 year of this new campaign, it more than doubled. Sales went through the roof, the science of desire was a massive, undeniable success. Now, with a formula this successful, J. Walter Thompson wasn't about to keep it just in America. Oh no. They took their new model of advertising and the specific ideal of beauty it was selling, and they exported it all over the globe.
The big moment, the thing that kicked off this massive expansion, was in 1927 when they won the international account for General Motors. And the deal was simple. Anywhere GM built a factory, JWT had to open an ad agency. This partnership was about to put their vision of consumerism on a global stage.
And just look at how fast they moved. It's kind of mind-boggling. In just 6 years, they opened offices across multiple continents. Buenos Aires, Berlin, São Paulo, Bombay, Cape Town. They were building a massive commercial empire, and every single office they opened was another outpost for their American-made formula for selling products by selling desire. This quote from a JWT executive in 1929. Wow, it tells you everything about their mindset. He was comparing the ad agencies in Argentina to witch doctors. That one phrase reveals what the source material calls an ideology of civilization. They genuinely saw themselves as bringing a superior, scientific, modern approach to these, uncivilized markets. They weren't just selling cars and soap, they were selling the American way of life as the only way forward.
So, all of this brings us to the legacy of these women. And it's a story of incredible, groundbreaking success for sure, but it is also deeply, deeply complicated. It leaves us with some pretty powerful contradictions to think about.
So what did they really change? Well, they completely reinvented the ideal of womanhood. The 19th century steel engraving lady was this delicate, passive figure who was valued for her inner morality and her role in the home. The new 20th century modern woman that JWT created was totally different. She was a consumer, valued for her external beauty, her style, her allure, all things that, very conveniently, could be bought.
Which leaves us with the million-dollar question. Were these women heroes? Were they trailblazers who used their smarts to shatter glass ceilings and build amazing careers? Or were they the ones who built a new gilded cage for women? This endless cycle of anxiety and desire that has defined our relationship with our own image ever since.
Maybe the real answer is that they were both. As this final quote suggests, the ideal of beauty isn't some fixed thing. It changes, it mutates to fit the times, often in ways that keep women focused on their appearance right at the moments they're starting to gain power elsewhere. The work of Helen Lansdowne and her team was a massive turning point in that story, a story that continues to unfold on our screens and in our mirrors every single day.